Hello everyone, my name is John Lee and I will be presenting about metaphor in literature. Throughout the presentation, I will be covering first, what are metaphors? Second, why do people use metaphors? And lastly, cover some metaphors used in The Great Gatsby. Starting with what metaphors are, I've included a dictionary definition for your reference. Simply, metaphors are where two different things, normally having zero relation in terms of literary definition, are equated for the sake of comparison or symbolism. This can take many forms. The most simple form would be where the literal and figurative terms are both mentioned within the writing, like A is B. Other than that, metaphors can have a form where only one of the literal term or the figurative term is mentioned. Also, there are forms where neither the literal or figurative terms are mentioned. In the last case, it may be difficult to even realize the presence of the metaphor. Here are some examples of famous metaphors. One from Vincent van Gogh is, "Conscience is a man's compass," referring that conscience is what guides a person throughout his or her life. Another one is, "But there are many mountains yet to climb. We will not rest until every American enjoys the fullness of freedom, dignity, and opportunity as our birthright." This was said by former President Ronald Reagan. He is referring the difficulties and problems in the country as mountains, and that they will be solved by climbing it. So, then why do people use metaphors? One of the effects is that it helps the reader understand the text better by pairing an easier or descriptive term with the other. Another effect is that metaphors make the language more descriptive and easier to visualize, compared to just a summary or description by the author. It is a good way to follow one of the basic rules of writing, the show don't tell rule. Another fun fact is that metaphors can actually psychologically affect how the reader interprets a writing. According to a past study, researchers described crime as a beast preying on innocent citizens to one group of people, and described crime as a disease that appeared at the town to the other group of people. Then, when both groups of people were asked on how to solve the crime issue, people who heard crime as a beast suggested control strategies like increasing the police or incarcerating the criminals, while the other group, who heard crime as a disease, suggested treatment strategies. In conclusion, these effects of metaphors led the people to use it not only in written literature, but also in speeches and marketing strategies. Now let's take a look at some metaphors used in The Great Gatsby. The first one is where Nick Carraway, the narrator, describes the lawn at Tom Buchanan's house as a moving animal. The book says, "The lawn started at the beach and ran toward the front door for a quarter of a mile, jumping over sundials and brick walks and burning gardens. Finally, when it reached the house, drifting up the side in bright vines, as though from the momentum of its run." This metaphor allows us to better picture the size of the property and gives us the sense on how rich Tom Buchanan is. The next one is the metaphors on Gatsby's car. The book states, "It was a rich cream color, bright with nickel, swollen here and there in its monstrous length, with triumphant hat boxes and supper boxes and tool boxes, and terraced with a labyrinth of windshields that mirrored a dozen suns." Another one says, "Sitting down behind many layers of glass in a sort of green leather conservatory, we started to town." By referring the car to a labyrinth, which means a maze, and a conservatory, we can imagine how big and luxurious the car is. The last example included is the metaphor on the green light. The green light is mentioned often throughout the book. "He stretched out his arms toward the dark water in curious way, and far as I was from him, I could have sworn he was trembling. Involuntarily I glanced seaward. and distinguished nothing except a single green light. Another one, you always have a green light that burns all night at the end of your dock. Now it was again a green light on a dock. As the green light is located by Daisy's house, and the description of how Gatsby was stretching his arm towards the green light, we can know that it is something Gatsby wants and craves. We can see how the green light is a metaphor with Gatsby's dream. I'll end the presentation with a list of references and thank you for listening. Also, Happy New Year!